Welcome to another episode of Stealing and Looting Absolutely Everything. In today's episode, I wanted to go over a few things that I mentioned in my previous video about being the best thief in Baldur's Gate 3, including a few things I think I kind of missed or really kind of skipped over, but more importantly, there was one item that I didn't get a chance to showcase, and I think that it is very important for the thief playstyle, or if you just want to basically be the best thief in Baldur's Gate 3. So, what am I talking about? First, let's go over a few items that I may have mentioned in the last video, but I wanted to bring them up again just to show you what is available in case you want to increase your sleight of hand and pickpocket people. First, we have the Gloves of Power, which I've mentioned in my previous video. They give a +1 to sleight of hand. Besides the Gloves of Power, the Nimble Finger Gloves. If you are a gnome, these gloves are very good and probably the best gloves you can get for stealing stuff. And finally, the gloves that I use in my video, and the ones that I think are the best gloves generally, are the Unlucky Thieves gloves, which give sleight of hand +2. Some other items that are kind of cool to have: Gloves of Thievery, advantage of sleight of hand checks. This is good early on, not so much later on, because you can basically get an advantage easily with spells and whatnot, but early on in the game, this is definitely an item I use myself, which allows you to get an advantage, but it does not prevent crit failure. So if you roll 2 natural ones, you will crit fail, and ironically enough, I've done this more often than I think is statistically possible. And finally, another item I think is pretty cool is the Graceful Cloth. The Graceful Cloth allows you to essentially get +2 dexterity if you don't have 20. It's a good item to have for a lot of characters, but for a thief, in case you want to increase your dexterity a little bit more, is very good. The maximum is still 20, so you cannot break the 20 limit with just this, but again, it is a good item and something you may want to consider. The Gloves of Power, the Gloves of Thievery, and the Graceful Cloth are all available in Act 1, while the Nimble Finger Gloves and the Unlucky Thieves Gloves are only available in Act 3. Quick note about the Unlucky Thieves Gloves is that they do have a small disadvantage that whenever you steal anything, you get a piece of coal added to your inventory, and there appears to be a very small chance, I'm not sure how much it is, what the chance is, but maybe like 5%, 10%, to where a burning pile of coals is added to your inventory, which actually sets you on fire for like a round and breaks stealth. So if you were pickpocketing somebody, it kicks you out for that round. It's kind of inconvenient, but it is not too bad, and you kind of learn to deal with it. That's everything for all of the items that I think are kind of useful for thievery, and let's get to the star of this video, which is the Cloak of Cunning Broom. This seemingly mundane item is actually incredibly useful, both in and out of combat. What it does is that whenever you disengage with a character wearing this cape, it creates a 7 feet cloud of smoke or something, which obscures vision and makes you pretty much invisible to whoever is looking in your direction. And, as you can probably tell, this item is crazy busted. You can also pair it with the Eversight ring, which makes you immune to blindness, because while you're in the cloud, you get blinded because you can't see anything. So if you pair it with the ring, you can now see. And if you're a rogue, you can basically get automatic sneak attacks because you'll have advantage over your enemies because they won't be able to see you, but you will be able to see them with the ring and while in the cloud. So, how do you use this cloak to be the best thief around? Very simple, actually. One thing you should learn is that if you hold down the shift button on PC, I don't have a PS5 or an Xbox or whatever, Baldur's Gate 3 is on, so I can't say what the console commands are, but if you hold shift on PC, you will be able to see where people are looking, their vision ranges, without having to crouch. And that gives you an idea of where you can go so you're not seen. What the Cloak of Cunning Broom does is that whenever you disengage, you create this cloud, which breaks vision. And that means that you can basically do whatever you want and nobody will react to it. If you want to try and pickpocket somebody, you can, as long as you're inside the cloud, because you're not going to be seen by anybody. If you want to steal something off a shelf, or pick a lock, or do whatever, you can basically use this cloud and stay in it and do that. The cloud of smoke lasts for approximately 2 turns, the turn you use disengage plus the turn after, and you can actually use the cloud to move NPCs around because, as it turns out, they don't like being blind in a cloud of smoke. You can also abuse this by chaining clouds together with bonus action to create like a concealment path even as you move around. It is nuts. It almost feels like cheating. That is one option you can use to basically automatically succeed in all of your thief-related endeavors. But I do have some other ideas for you, and primarily they are 2 ideas. First of all, you can use Bard's performance to distract people. Now, it isn't terribly useful because you can't tell or you can't pick who is going to be distracted and who is not going to be distracted, but you can draw large crowds to where people will be sort of mulling around near your characters and not paying attention. If you try to pickpocket them though, they will pay attention. That is one option. Another option is, and what I prefer to use, either invisibility or greater invisibility, which is even better. Invisibility allows you to pickpocket somebody once or steal something once while being invisible. And so whenever you do steal something or pickpocket somebody, you'll become visible again. This, of course, is even better with greater invisibility because it allows you to stay invisible as you're pickpocketing and stealing as long as you keep passing harder and harder sleight of hand checks. If you are a thief level 11, or rather a rogue thief level 11, you'll be able to pass these checks no problem because your sleight of hand is just going to be nuts. It's going to be at least 29 if you followed the guide from my last video. I have 2 more bonus tips for you, and that is if you want to pickpocket somebody or you want to change where they're looking, engage them in conversation and then switch to another character. The NPC will be in dialogue and won't react to pickpocket attempts unless you fail or something. But if you steal from them, they'll just remain standing until the conversation is over, and after the conversation is over, then they will react to the pickpocket attempt. They will, however, react to something that you try to steal or try to lockpick in their view range if they're actually looking at you. But you can also talk to people to change where they are looking so that you can engage them in conversation, have them sort of standing by, not looking like at a treasure chest, while another character lockpicks the treasure chest and then takes the loot inside. The final tip I have for you is that NPCs will take note whenever you're trying to steal something around them, even if they are not looking at you. Sometimes people wandering the street will see you stealing something from a nearby house through a window, even though you don't think they're looking at you. And that's because they turn in your direction whenever you steal something. So to remedy that, I would highly recommend that you stay in sneaking mode as much as possible whenever you're trying to burgle a house, pick a lock, or take some treasure, or do something like that. If it doesn't belong to you, just make sure you're sneaking. Sometimes NPCs will turn in your direction if they're close enough, even if you are sneaking and that you took something from a shelf or something. So just save yourself the headache of being discovered and sneak. That is everything I have to teach you in this episode, and I think with this knowledge and with the previous episode, you are probably the most capable thief in Baldur's Gate 3. Now hit the street and steal, loot, and burgle to your heart's content. That's it for me. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.